joining us. Gideon Scovel, hello to you.
Hello, hello. Glad to be here.
Great to have you with us. I'm very, very happy here in ContentoNow to learn a bit more about the 3 books that are in the publishing journey. The first one, what is the main thing?
Well, it's about an imaginary nation that was for many centuries depressed, criticized, ridiculed, and as such they believe that they have to have their own homeland. So they go on a voyage of building their own homeland. The characters are not necessarily people. We have genetically modified characters in the book.
Genetically modified?
Genetically modified characters, so we have some crazy things of part human, part not human.
This is part of your profession, your academic profession.
Yes, I took advantage of my know-how in genetics to write this book, that's for sure. And so the idea is to show how these creations go about achieving a new homeland, which they did very successfully in the beginning, but then because of lack of experience in running a nation, they actually lost their nation passively where they were taken over. So they had to exodus to another place underground and hide, and then it's about their losing their homeland and then regaining it. Their efforts, their unceasing efforts to achieve a homeland, which had to do a lot with their leader and a human girl that was there that escorted them throughout the whole journey, and it was very devoted to these people, and it's about their journey, how they built a homeland successfully, lost it.
Completely lost it?
Well, not completely lost it. There were some benefits down the line from the first homeland. They were a very successful high-tech nation. So, down the line, they were able to import high-tech items from the place that used to be their home and use them to build a new life later on. But in between, they had this large phase of underground living until they had the opportunity to come back on Earth and rebuild things.
So we're talking about practically 3 books.
Yes.
The first one, his name is?
Roller Coaster Ride.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all about the up and down, a roller coaster ride that moves them closer and closer actually to their main goal, which is a homeland of their own.
The second book, which is also in the publishing journey?
Yes, the second book is when they actually had the opportunity to come back and resurface from underground.
Yes.
And carry on with their building of a homeland. Now they have a lot of experience. Now they've already lost a homeland and they've gained a lot of experience. So they do it in a different way. They also come into a situation when nothing is left because of a nuclear blast. So everything has been erased from the earth, and it's actually a restart of civilization.
A restart? A complete restart?
Well,
of all species?
Well, there were some survivors here and there that they came upon as they started to move out and build things over again. At first it looked like everything was gone, but then they met some survivors. Some of them were badly mutated, so they were very handicapped, you could say. But some of those handicapped people were very intelligent because they surfaced the earth in a place that used to be a highly secret army base with a lot of intelligent people working there, and so some of these mutants were affected physically but not mentally. So they became allies to the underground creations, I call them. I'm not describing them exactly what they look like. And they became allies, and they became actually united in their goal to restart and rebuild the world. Gradually, the leader of the people who came from underground was able to entice them. Well, not really entice them, he was very charismatic. So he himself was surprised that everyone wanted him as their leader. He made sure that his people were always in the majority, so that they wouldn't lose control. And so things went forward in that way. That's book 2.
And there will be also book number 3.
Right.
So
it's
please,
in my head, yeah.
Yes, in your head, please give us some glimpse, something that we can hold to.
Okay. So in book 3, they managed, after many struggles with some of the surviving mutants, we'll say mutants that they encounter they had many skirmishes and struggles at first, but things eventually were stabilized. And this leader, he had dreams of, he began to have dreams of going beyond the Earth. So he began dreaming of outer space and how to continue their homeland into outer space. So he took voyages to the edge of the atmosphere.
Wow.
He wasn't able to get into outer space, but he could go as far as the edge of atmosphere. I'll leave that one for suspense for the readers to find out why only to the edge at first, until they were able to build spaceships and go even farther. He had a son. During the second book. And this son, during book 3, becomes of age where he can actually challenge his father's opinions. He knew he would inherit the throne. He thought somewhat different than his father. He was more willing to establish more the world that they were living in and make it a better place, and not so. And his father was getting a little bit too much enticed to go to outer space. So it's going to be interesting to see how they interact and what happens between son and father. And in the meantime, as they go out further, expand their outreach on the newly developed Earth, they discover new places. They go on journeys, and there are tales to be told.
On Earth?
On Earth. And this is why the son says to his father that they should concentrate on those things and not concentrate on outer space. And so it's a very interesting interaction.
That's very, very interesting, and especially in those days when all the billionaires are going out of space, including the founder of Amazon.
That's right.
And they are all here in the Middle East. You came from the United States to the Middle East to here to Israel at the age of
19. Yes.
So people looking for their homeland is like part of the story of this holy land.
That's for sure. There's a lot in the book that is an indirect reference to the journey I've had. The roller coaster ride is something that I also took.
Please share one example that people can say, hey, that's the story, a fantastic story, and here you have the opportunity to see the author. It's part also of his life. So something that you can share that has kind of similarity.
Yes, well, the girl in the story of book 1, she was taken away from her family that lived on Earth. And she was taken to this new homeland, the one that was lost originally, called Crodom. And she was separated, she was taken forcefully out of her home to this place, but then she sort of fell in love with these people, and she was in a dilemma. She wanted to go back to her family, but she also wanted to stay with her new friends. And as time went on, she less and less wanted to go back home, and she more and more wanted to stay with those people, for the better and for worse. So they lost their home, and then they went underground, and she was with them all the time. in a way that's like me. That's I was enticed to leave home. I met my wife before I came to Israel in the States.
Where exactly in the States? What was your
Connecticut.
home? Connecticut.
In Connecticut, USA, in college, and I was enticed to come to Israel for a visit, so to speak. And the visit turned out to be 47 years, during which time we had ups and downs, and not as a husband and wife, but as a country. Israel has very, very much changed over the last 47 years.
Very much.
And we have experienced it just as everybody else. And now there's a lot of things in the world that should worry people. I think now Israel's in a good place, and there's a lot of things outside of Israel that should worry a lot of people. And I think that those elements are in part of the book as well, like the nuclear blast that takes place in book 2.
So everything is fantastic and realistic at the same time.
Right.
Last message for this interview, the first one in your publishing journey, something that Gideon, that you would love that the international reader would take with him from these 3 new upcoming books.
I think of this, from what I read and understand, I think there's a lot of fantasy readers that are thirsty for new fantasy. They've been reading many books by Robert Jordan and by Tolkien and by Brandon Sanderson, one volume after the other, continuation of one of the other. I think maybe our trilogy brings a little bit of a new kind of fantasy, which has maybe some direct messages for present time, for present day problems in the world. And not only that, it's a fun fantasy story to read, I think. And it's a little bit different than the other writers. I think, I'm not comparing myself with the biggest writers of ever, but it's different. It has, I think, they have the books, they have a
twist,
a style of their own.
Exactly,
I think.
The style of Gideon Scovel.
Right.
I want to thank you very much for this interview here at the studios of ContentoNow. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And people that want to be part of this journey at the right time, coming soon on Amazon.
Right. Book 1.
Book 1, and afterwards book 2, and afterwards book 3.
That's right.
Exactly. Gideon Scovel, תודה רבה.
Thank you.
Thank you.